So ESPN Cleveland dropped this report a few hours ago. Now, this is what they said. They said no final decision has been made on head coach Kevin Stefanski's future with the Browns. If Jimmy Haslam decides to move on, they mentioned that Kevin will be a top candidate on the market. Will he be the coach? And I just got to be honest with y'all. I don't know. Do I want him to be the coach? No, I don't. So right now, do I want Shedeur in Cleveland? At this point, I want to go with whatever God allows Shedeur to be. That's the best way to put it. Now, is I'm mad that he in Cleveland? Yes, I do be mad that he's there because they don't know how to handle business, right? But I'm solely against the Browns? No. I just don't like the way that they've been going about dealing with Shedeur. But wherever God wants him to be, that's where I want him to be. Because that's where Kevin Stefanski is more than likely about to be rewarded for sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. This is an inside thing. So that means that if the NFL decides to reward Kevin Stefanski for sabotaging Shedeur, there should be a criminal investigation. I just have to be honest. Because that's what it's looking like. It's looking like they is about to reward him for sabotaging this young man, making him sit on the bench, not giving him first team reps, for him to be in consideration for a top coaching position. This is the Browns offensive line. Week 16, O-line ranked 31st ranked in Pro Football Focus. They're ranked 31st. The Browns have the 31st ranked offensive line into week 17. Week 16, bro. Come on, bro. What are we? And y'all saying he'll be a top candidate? A top candidate for a coaching position? Top candidate? What the buffoonery? Am I tripping?
Everyone was guessing what would happen with Kevin Stefanski and Shedeur until Jimmy Haslam finally spoke up. What this really shows is confusion at the very top. When reports say no final decision has been made, but also hint that Stefanski could be a top candidate if fired, it already tells you how messy the thinking is. How does a coach tied to losing seasons, chaos, and zero quarterback stability still get talked about like a prize? Meanwhile, Shedeur is stuck in one of the worst-run situations in football and somehow becomes the one under scrutiny. That makes no sense. A young quarterback needs structure, trust, and reps. Instead, he gets mixed messages and an organization that doesn't even know what it believes in. If the Browns actually had clarity, would we even be having this conversation right now? Let's be real about Shedeur for a second. The frustration people express isn't really about him. It's about the Browns not knowing how to develop talent. Sitting a young quarterback, limiting his first-team reps, and then acting surprised when things don't click, that's backwards football. How is that helping him grow? How is that putting him in a position to succeed? You can be mad he's in Cleveland and still not be against him being there. That reaction proves the point. The anger comes from watching the same mistakes repeat. If Shedeur struggles behind a broken system, is that on him or on the people who built and protected that system? Wherever he thrives, that will say more about the organization than about Shedeur himself. Now let's break down Stefanski and the front office. How does a coach tied to a bottom-ranked offensive line, poor offensive rhythm, and constant quarterback confusion get framed as a top candidate around the league? Ranked near the bottom in protection, yet somehow that's ignored. And Jimmy Haslam has to take that too. When ownership keeps recycling the same ideas and rewarding failure, what message does that send? Are wins even the priority anymore, or is it just about protecting reputations? Fans aren't crazy for asking these questions. If this is what good coaching looks like, why does everything on the field look so bad? And if Shedeur was really sabotaged by poor planning and weak support, shouldn't that be the real story instead of pretending Stefanski deserves another reward?
do he still have a job? I repeat, he's 6-25 in the last 2 years. Let me know, am I tripping? Because I know I read that correctly. That boy colder than the North Pole on Christmas Eve. I ain't lying. He colder than the North Pole on Christmas Eve. It goes on to say, Rappaport and Tom question if the Browns believe Stefanski is the right coach to bring along a young quarterback. Goes on to say, if not, Haslam might have to opt to move on, and Stefanski would immediately become a top candidate elsewhere. Immediately become a top candidate, which lead me to believe y'all finna reward Kevin Stefanski for sabotaging Shedeur. He's finna get a victory lap trophy for... I can't make this up.
At some point, common sense has to kick in. A coach going 6-25 over the last 2 years? That's not debatable. It's a fact. So how does someone with that record still feel safe in his job? And not just safe, but talked about like he's some kind of valuable asset. That's when people start feeling frustrated, because the math doesn't lie. When a team keeps losing, looking cold, flat, and lifeless week after week, that starts at the top, with leadership. Meanwhile, Shedeur gets thrown into this chaos and somehow ends up part of the blame. That's not fair. A young quarterback can't grow in a place that feels disconnected and unprepared every Sunday. If the energy's dead, if the game plan feels rushed or confused, how's a rookie supposed to thrive? What makes it worse is the idea that Stefanski could walk away and instantly get praise somewhere else. That's failure dressed up as success. Browns fans have been saying the same thing for years. These are coaching issues, not player issues. So when people hear he might get rewarded while Shedeur loses reps, confidence, and rhythm, it just feels backwards. How does that help a young quarterback? How does that send the right message? If Shedeur struggles, it's because the system around him is broken, not because he lacks talent or toughness. The truth? You don't protect a coach with excuses and then expect a young quarterback to survive the fallout. And anyone watching closely knows that.
2020, the Browns fans have complained about Kevin Stefanski play calling, clock managing, and situational decisions, making the team constantly look unprepared and undisciplined. So y'all mean to tell me this unprepared, because I gotta let you, I wasn't watching the Browns before Shedeur got there, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably weren't watching them either like that if you don't live in Cleveland. Hell, wasn't nobody checking out for the Browns to look and see how they doing, betting on their games and all that. They was trash. Now, since everything is coming to the forefront, this has been going on since 2020. 2020 of them not making sure the players are prepared.
Let's be real for a second. A lot of people weren't even checking for the Browns before Shedeur showed up, and that's just facts. If you didn't live in Cleveland, you weren't tuning in, you weren't betting on their games, and you weren't paying attention to how they operated week to week. They were already bad. Now that the spotlight's on them, all this stuff is finally coming to light. And the wild part? This isn't new. This didn't start with Shedeur. This goes back years. Since around 2020, the same problems keep popping up. Players looking confused, sloppy starts, bad timing, and a team that never seems fully ready when the game kicks off. So how is this suddenly shocking? And why are people acting like it's a one-year issue? That's where Stefanski needs to be questioned hard. How do players consistently look unprepared at game time? How does it keep happening across different seasons, different rosters, and different situations? That's coaching, that's leadership, that's planning. What exactly is going on during the week? What are they doing in practice? What's the message in meetings? Because when the same issues appear year after year, that's not bad luck, that's a pattern. And if this has been happening since 2020, why was it ignored for so long? Why didn't someone step in and say, this isn't acceptable football? So how many quarterbacks have to struggle before we stop blaming the quarterback? How many slow starts and sloppy games before we admit the coach isn't setting the tone? How long do you keep calling someone smart when the team keeps looking lost? And most importantly, why should a young player like Shedeur pay the price for problems that were there long before he arrived? If the Browns have been unprepared for years, then how is Stefanski still protected? And if this is the standard, what exactly are they trying to build?
We just seen this last week with the whole wristband, Shedeur wristband. You know, he didn't have the plays. He didn't have what the hell is this? He looking like this ain't what we went over. Now, kind of find out, it was the wrong plays. It was the wrong plays. They gave the young man the wrong plays. Now, that lead me to believe Kevin Stefanski is not qualified to be a good coach. How? How is Kevin Stefanski being a good coach, even in the same sentence with the word good? I don't know. Despite being an offensive specialist, Stefanski offense in Cleveland have never finished higher than 14th in yards and 10th in points. The offense finished 32nd and 28th last year and is currently ranked 29th and 30th this season. Now, this is what they're saying. They stated Haslam might opt to move on to Kevin Stefanski when he immediately becomes top candidate elsewhere.
What we saw with the wristband situation tells you everything you need to know. A young quarterback is on the field looking confused, scanning around like this isn't what we practiced. And later, we find out the problem wasn't him, it was the plays. He was given the wrong information. That's not a small mistake, that's a basic failure. When your quarterback looks lost on national TV because the staff messed up, that's embarrassing. It puts the player in a bad spot and makes him look unprepared when he actually did his job. Shedeur trusted the system, trusted the plan, and the plan failed him. How is that on the quarterback? And Stefanski being called a good coach? How does that even make sense? If you're labeled an offensive specialist, your offense should at least be respectable. But year after year, it's near the bottom. Not once has it been elite. Not once has it even been close. Bottom of the league in yards, bottom of the league in scoring. And yet people act surprised when things fall apart. If this is the product, then what exactly is he specializing in? You can't keep using the same title when the results never match. At some point, numbers matter, and these numbers are ugly. What makes it worse? The idea that he could be let go and instantly praised somewhere else. That feels backwards. A young quarterback gets blamed, benched, and questioned, while the coach who oversaw confusion, bad communication, and a failing offense gets labeled a top candidate. That's not fair. That's not logical. Shedeur hasn't been put in a position to win, grow, or build confidence, yet he's still expected to carry the weight of a broken system. If anyone deserves patience and support, it's the young quarterback. If anyone deserves real heat, it's the coach who keeps getting excuses while the same problems repeat. This explains why NFL insiders are shocked. Failure keeps getting protected, while a young quarterback takes the heat. If this is the standard, then the Browns aren't serious about winning or developing talent. For real football talk with no filter, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. And don't forget, do you think Shedeur was set up to fail in Cleveland on purpose so Kevin Stefanski could be protected?